Police say just after midnight this morning, a 24-year-old reported his vehicle was being followed and it ended in another driver being killed. According to police, the 24-year-old says the other driver pointed what looked like a rifle at him. Police say the 24-year-old then shot and killed the other driver with his pistol. The police chief says the preliminary information points to a case of self-defense. The 16-year-old died at the scene. Police say he was actually armed with a BB gun.
It looked very realistic, very much like a firearm. Responding officers also held the initial belief that it was a actual firearm. It was determined much later in the investigation that it was not.
Do not use a fake firearm to try to protect yourself or project authority. Certainly do not use it in a road rage situation. We were both reading the story. We kind of get the same Google alerts like, hey, that kid in Alaska got shot and killed because he pulled out a CO2 powered pellet rifle and pointed it at another guy in a road rage incident.
Every state has, for the most part, different wording of their laws, but it'll come down to something like you are allowed to employ deadly force against an individual who is posing an otherwise unavoidable impending threat of death or great bodily injury in such a context as a reasonable person would agree with you. Correct?
Yeah.
Neither of us are attorneys, never been attorneys.
Yeah.
But that's roughly what we're dealing with. And that reasonable person standard is specifically in there for stuff like, well, it turned out that gun was unloaded. Well, it turned out that was a squirt gun he'd spray painted black. Well, well, I was 22 yards away from him and I saw him reach into his waistband, pull that out and point it at me, so I fired. I'm sorry that it happened, but what was I going to do? That's what the whole reasonable person standard is there for. And this is an unfortunate instance of...
Yeah, somebody's dead over road rage, over a traffic circle, apparently, something like that. And the police, I need to make this clear, the police released the shooter, the man who shot and killed this 16-year-old boy. They released him after questioning, and it appears that nothing will happen, but it is still under investigation. And in the police reports and the news reports of this incident, the police officers were convinced this was a real gun until they got up on it and looked at it and were like, whoa, okay, this thing is so realistic that we thought it was real until we came in to make it clear and make it safe. And those sorts of things, man, tell your kids, tell everybody, first of all, don't pull out a gun in a road rage incident. Drive away. It's not worth the headaches, the hassles, and the potential for death. And secondly, if you are a responsibly armed citizen and someone pulls out what reasonably appears to look like a firearm, you are compelled to take action to save your own life. And in this case, tragically, 16-year-old kid is dead. This shooter's life has changed forever. I mean, this is something that we hear about occasionally. We've seen it at the police level. And man, it's got to stop happening somehow.
And I remember as growing up watching 80s and 90s action movies, this was a trope. This was in like every third 80s and 90s action movie, like, oh, he's riding a desk because one night he shot a kid. Yeah, well, that ray gun looked real to me, like that kind of thing. This has been around for quite a while. And there have been famous cases of people using not firearms to either bluff their way through things, or, the famous Dillinger escape in Indiana, and Ronald Reagan talked about when he was an actor, he leaned out a hotel window once and stopped an assault with unloaded single actions that he had for acting in a movie. So it's not like anyone can say like, well, he didn't really think anybody. No, people are going to think it's real. And they're going to be shooting real bullets, and you just can't do it, especially, as you said, during a road rage incident. It's bizarre. I don't know if it's biological or what, but some people just don't road rage. And some people, if you've ever been in the vehicle with somebody, when they snap and they're behind the wheel, it's terrifying. It is. And if you know deep down, maybe you're a little more like that than like you or me who just don't road rage, maybe go out of your way to never have anything that looks like a gun in your vehicle.
Yeah, that certainly I will impress on people. Stop and think, What are you planning to do? The guy cut you off in traffic. You pull out your gun. What are you thinking? That you're going to scare him away or make him drive away faster? Well, you're just going to chase him down then anyway because you're in this road rage zone. Stop and think, people. This immediately, I mean, driving a car is life and death anyway. Pulling a gun out on someone while you're driving a car escalates this situation beyond the scope of your normal everyday driving dangers. And the end result is people get killed over this kind of stuff.
Well, and part of it, I think, has to be that some people are more threat display oriented than other people are. Like, you and I are not particularly performative people. We don't come into the office and throw papers up in the air. Some people, though, I remember I was talking to an old parole officer, NYPD probation and parole. This is 30 years ago. And I was a preteen or barely teenager, and I was showing him a crappy switchblade I'd bought somewhere. And he says, "Oh, so many idiots died with these next to him." And I didn't know what he meant, but he later explained, like, yeah, these were always dull. These were not meant for fighting. These were meant to show that you were willing to fight, like in West Side Story. The people who are pulling out fake guns or real guns over road rage and waving them at people, a lot of them don't understand. You or I don't take that as a threat display. You or I take that as a direct threat on our lives that will be responded to with deadly force. So it's sad, but I feel like that has something to do with it. Like, he pulled that gun and pointed it to show that, like, look, man, I'm not messing around. Whereas a normal person would take that to mean, oh, you're about to murder me. Yeah. So I'm going to stop you.
Absolutely.
Hey, before you go, let me ask you, are you breaking these gun laws without even knowing it? Get a free concealed carry map that reveals the gun laws in your state and the states you might be traveling to. Click the link in the description below to check it out.